we have to leave, and this is how we spent our last day in the great city of Osaka. But our 3 months journey through Japan still continues. Since 2018, we were saving up money for our wedding and our honeymoon in Japan. We planned everything for April 2020, but then Corona took over the world, and it changed everything. We still got married, but no party or honeymoon. And Japan was closing its borders for a long time. So we postponed our journey again and again and again. And I admit I was ugly crying at least 2 times. Because I always dreamed of going on a honeymoon traveling adventure. But then, in October 2022, Japan officially opened its borders again, and we could finally start planning and fly over to Japan for our 3 months honeymoon. And if you like, you can follow us through our 3 months journey through Japan. This is part 27.
So today is our last day in Osaka. I'm a little bit sentimental, to be honest, because it's our first big stop at our Japan travel route. Like normally the last day I never make plans, because if you saw something that's on your mind and you are not sure whether you want to buy it or not, the last day is reserved for those kinds of purchases. And I always think as like, oh, this is going to be destiny if it's still there or not, because sometimes something is expensive and you're not sure yet, but then it's like, oh, okay, I cannot forget about it. The last day is the day to get it. But because we couldn't hold ourselves back, we already bought everything that we wanted. We thought that we'd check out some book-offs for retro games, some figures, some manga that we still want to buy. So I take you around on our shopping trip before we go to the last destination that we like put off for a while, Dotonbori, because it's just crowded as fuck, and it's not so fun to try foods and like show it to you guys because it's so stressful, but we try our best today.
And the first shop was Book of Plus. First we took a look at the gaming section, and since I am in my vintage game era, I took a closer look at the old Game Boy game selection. The Hunter x Hunter game was very intriguing for my husband. They had all kinds of retro games that we never saw in Europe. But of course, also the classics like Kirby or Space Invaders. Or Tamagotchi games, which we already bought in Kobe. And so many games to popular anime and manga. My inner teenager is crying because they were not available in Germany back then. And as always, we took a closer look through the figure section. But what I ended up buying was not even for me. I was just the one with the credit card, but it made my husband very happy. On the upper floor was mainly fashion and accessories, and it's always worth to take a look. There was even a whole kimono corner. The obi selection was amazing. I love the green color of this one. So you can even find special traditional souvenirs here if you will. Then we take a look through the rest of the clothing section, and it was quite a lot to go through. What a majestic chin! Since Japanese fashion can be very flashy, we saw plenty of unique pieces that can be an interesting highlight of your outfit. Some prints just hypnotized me. I spotted a pair of jeans from the Pokemon and Levi collaboration. It was sold out very fast in Germany. I was looking in hope that it might be my size. But let's be honest, I'm a tall blonde girl in Japan, so of course no. So then we threw ourselves back into the street. We made it to another normal book off. the retro game selection was rather small, and the only interesting thing I found was a DIY Neon Genesis Evangelion comic rack that came with the last manga. And then we started to get hungry, so we went into a nearby mall into the food court.
So we had lunch at a Korean restaurant just to get more energy. My husband was really excited to finally have some Korean food because he loves Korean food. But when you go to another country which serves like also from another country food, like a different kind of cuisine, then you will always adjust like the flavors, like the palate to this country. So the kimchi that we had was not spicy at all, but it still was kind of a little bit sweet even, I would say, but it was really nice, really fresh. And I got jjajangmyeon and my husband got bibimbap with yangnyeom chicken. And what was also really interesting was the portion size, because in Japan portion sizes in general are much smaller, also compared to Korea, and it was really cute kind of size that we got. It still tasted great, and when you go to other restaurants, foreign restaurants in other countries, like if I go to a German restaurant in Japan, then obviously the taste will be adjusted to the Japanese palate and it's going to be different. And I think going to places like this, you also learn about the country that you're actually staying in. And then my husband, I'm a little bit ashamed because we went to book off to look for retro games, and then there was a Hunter x Hunter Game Boy game. And I showed it to my husband, and he is able like to download games and play it on his phone. So he was like checking if this is a game that he wants to play, maybe just like, you know, battle against different characters kind of game. But it's like a story game where you play through the story. So we were like, okay, then we are not buying it. But then when we were sitting down at the restaurant, he gave me the game, like, here, you can play it a little bit. And I'm like, okay, I will just play it. And then it sucked me in. Like, I was sitting there playing through the story. It's mostly like where you can select different things that you are going to do next. I just played like 5 or 10 minutes because then I was like, okay, I have to stop now, otherwise I will be sitting here the whole afternoon or evening even, because I have this really obsessive side about me that maybe I will talk about in different videos. I'm not sure yet, but I can be really obsessive and just like get lost in things. And now we spontaneously decided to get the game and walk back to the book of where we saw it. So let's go.
And here is the game that you also seen before in the video. And after that we went back to Namba. Like we were not here enough during our stay in Osaka. It just has the perfect mix of the atmosphere and all the cool nerdy shops. I definitely prefer it over Akihabara and Tokyo. And we took a look into my favorite store, Damski. And they had some retro games there too. How was I overlooking this? That's why you need to go again and again into these shops. And even amiibo cards, but not the ones that are still on my list. And the cute Pokemon figures that we got cheaper from the machine in Kobe. And my favorite gacha machine with Heidi's grandfather was sold out.
So we are now finished with our shopping chaos. And I think it's really funny that I said at the beginning we're just looking, there was nothing on our mind, we can relax, just window shopping. And then at the end, who was the person who bought the most stuff today? It was me. And it was just because like there are so many Game Boy games for either a really cheap price that I thought like, okay, let's play it, or like I said, like the Hunter x Hunter game, which sucked me in within 5 minutes of playing it a little bit. And then we were looking around at this retro store shop franchise, Super Potato again. There were 2 games that I actually wanted to buy. It was Yoshi's Island, it was the English title, and there was another one which is not story-based, more skill-based kind of game. I will put the title on here. I saw it in a YouTube video where somebody recommended his 10 favorite Game Boy Advance games, so I picked this one up. And then because I wanted from Heidi, the Austrian, or I think it's an Austrian-German novel, the gacha with the grandpa, I wanted to take a look inside the shopping mall again, but it was sold out and I never saw it again. But right next to it is the Adamski store, and I said to my husband, like, okay, we can go to the Dotonbori, it's fine, there's nothing I want to take a look at. But obviously inside I had the urge to take a peek, and my husband was, oh, we have time, we can take a look. And what happened, they had like 2 new Fujiko figures that I haven't seen there, and there was a whole new cute sitting apple section that I picked up, another apple in the shape of the dog, and there was another cute animals as fruits or vegetable ones. There was a cute owl that I picked up. So yeah, I am the one who falls victim to Japanese consumerism again. And now we're doing what we intended to do, going to Dotonbori, eat a little bit of street food and enjoy the lights and all the signs that we see there. It's gonna be crowded, so we have to brace ourselves for the crowds. But because it rained a little bit before and it seems a little bit gloomy since the afternoon, I think a lot of people not went home but went to places inside, so hopefully it will be less crowded, but tourists will always be around just like us. So let's take a look.
Then we wandered one last time through the famous Dotonbori street in Osaka. It was buzzing with life and people. The giant storefront signs were part of its charm, and people also could be part of it. Yes, that's me on screen. All the flashy lights and crazy signs give Dotonbori a special atmosphere, and sometimes you couldn't help but stop walking and stand in awe of the signs, which also meant that you are an annoying tourist standing in the middle of the way. Locals all over the world despise you. And we found a place that we wanted to eat dinner at, a Kushiage restaurant. Kushiage, also called kushihatsu, are deep-fried skewers with fish, meat, or vegetables. We entered the restaurant, and as often in Japan, you can simply order over a tablet. We were sat at the bar, so it was very loud and lively, and I couldn't get myself to act like a well-established food review YouTuber. I was too shy. And then we got served the delicious kushiage. First was the thick-cut bacon. We also got a raw cabbage as a side dish.
Thank it one time and then you can take a bite. This is going to be taco octopus.
And here you can see the octopus skewer from the inside. I love it. And now for the crab claw. I was very curious about how I can eat this. And here you can see the crab claw skewer I already took a bite of. And now the pumpkin skewer, and this one was very hot. Last but not least, lotus root. I love it so much.
I love the texture of the lotus root.
And now to show you something that you probably were taught to never ever do anywhere in the world. Play with your food. But I couldn't hold myself back because it was so fascinating to see how the parts of the crab claw were moving. And then it was already time to pay. The restaurant had a very busy atmosphere, but I loved the vibe and the food. And we were lucky enough not to stand in a crazy long line. And now we are back in the glittering neon lights of the city of Osaka. We went from the main street to the river and walked on the side. They were all standing in line. Next to the donkey was a small store that sold the TikTok famous 10 yen cheese bread.
So now we ate our last food at Dotonbori. It was the skewers who were like fried and was really delicious. It was really funny to eat like the crab because it was a real crab that you you saw it in the video. It was delicious. It was fried food always tastes good, but we were full from the Korean restaurant. But all the Osaka foods like okonomiyaki and takoyaki we ate before, and if you're longer in Osaka you definitely should check out different stores and local shop because Dotonbori is really crowded, it's more expensive, and also you have to wait in line much longer because like I showed you, like tourists are lining up like crazy, especially at the places that were like popular on TikTok, which is okay for those who just have like a short time during their travels for their vacation. But if you are able to travel longer, then you can stroll around, go in the little streets beside Dotonbori because they have amazing takoyaki as well. You don't have to wait in line and it's cheaper even. But if you like happen to grab food at Dotonbori and want to eat it in the street, just go next to the river because there's literally nobody here. Like it feels like all the people are waiting in line at Dotonbori and nobody is next to the river, which is a much more relaxing atmosphere. And here are places to sit, to relax, to soak in the nice vibrating atmosphere that Osaka just has. You should do that. And we are happy. We are saying goodbye to Osaka now. Our last moments, having a beer or some other drink next to the river before we head into our next location. After a very successful shopping day, at least for me. But there's no Ferris wheel today. I wanted to ride the Ferris wheel at Don Quixote, but there was still a sign which says because of the rain you cannot take the Ferris wheel. What rain? There is no rain anymore. There were a few raindrops like, I don't know, 1-2 hours ago, and they closed it and nothing is happening. A little bit disappointing, but we went to the other Ferris wheel which was much bigger. You had a whole view over Osaka. It was scary as fuck if you have fear of heights. So Osaka, bye bye.
People in Kansai are just different, very open and curious. We definitely didn't regret choosing Osaka as our base in Kansai over Kyoto. We stayed here for 3 weeks and it was our first longer stay during this journey. So right next to the touristic hotspot of Osaka, we cheered onto our time in Osaka and also onto our journey. There were times we didn't know if our dream is becoming true. But after the first 2 very busy weeks of our journey, we realized we are living our dream. Our very long honeymoon in Japan. And one thing is for sure, this won't be our last visit to Osaka.
Kanpai.
But now, off to our next destination. Thank you for watching.
To Dotonbori. Let's go.